Hello guys, I am Agathor and welcome to a guide to body damage in DayZ Standalone. In this video we're going to be identifying each body part on a player and looking at how much damage each of those body parts take. Now in 0.57, admins of servers were given additional stats to tackle hackers in their server logs. One of these new stats is which body part was affected while taking damage from another player. So using a sacrificial test dummy, I punched at hundreds of locations to find the different body parts on a player, including the breakpoints between each body part. Much fisting later, we found that players have 8 body parts identified by the engine. Here are the breakpoints between each of these body parts. To our surprise, what's called the pelvis is actually positioned along the stomach or abdomen, so the upper left leg and upper right leg extend up to the waistline of the player model. However, unlike all the other body parts, the pelvis does not extend around the back of a player. The entire back portion shown here is considered part of the chest by the engine. We also discovered that the lower arm extends to the palm of your hand, so players don't have a hand hitbox in DayZ Standalone, it's simply considered the lower arm. Now, comparing how much damage each body part takes was a tricky process, what with how one of the weakest ammo types in game one-shots a naked player in the chest, the 22 round. Instead, we used pristine fresh spawn clothing while shooting all 8 body parts. Sadly, there was no way to test the head, even with a pristine ballistic helmet. Here are the blood and health results for each test. Adding percentages to each body part, we can compare how each body part compares to the chest. For example, the lower arm takes 63% less blood and health damage compared to the chest. Oddly enough, the upper arm and lower leg takes almost exactly the same amount of blood and health damage that the chest does, with what's considered the pelvis in DayZ taking less damage than being shot in the foot. Now before you argue that these results are wrong, we did these tests several times with roughly the same results. We also found that getting shot in the lower leg gives you a fracture much easier than getting shot in the upper leg. But I can imagine some of you are still shaking your head in disbelief, arguing that you killed players much faster by shooting them in the chest rather than shooting them in the arm, for example. And right you are, because spinal damage is still very much a part of the damage calculation in DayZ Standalone. From our results for the 22 rounds, we know that we take the same amount of damage in the chest compared to the upper arm. So using the 545 round, I was shot in the upper arm until I died. It took 3 shots to get the "you are dead" screen. But when shot in the chest at the same distance with a freshly spawned character, I died in just 1 shot. To further prove this, I was shot in what's considered the pelvis by the engine and got one-shotted again, even though the damage taken in the pelvis compared to the upper arm is roughly 50% less damage per shot. This tells us that the main reason players die in gunfights is due to being shot in what's considered the chest or pelvis, causing a spinal fracture. So, if you're looking to kill a player in DayZ, most of the high caliber rounds in game will kill with 1 shot to the pelvis, upper chest, back or head over short distances. And if you're looking to just knock a player out, aiming for the upper arm or lower leg is the best way to do it. This also goes for when you want to fracture someone's leg or arm. Aiming for the upper arm has a higher chance to cause an arm fracture, and aiming for the lower leg has a higher chance to cause a leg fracture, but fractures do regenerate as of 0.57. When you're at full blood, at the stage 2 energized and stage 1 hydrated, or basically when you see the healing indicator, you begin to regenerate the bone condition stat, so you can literally self-heal a full-blown leg fracture without a splint or morphine. It took me roughly 1 hour to degenerate through the 3 stages of a leg fracture, but this also applies to spinal damage. If you get shot in the chest and manage to survive, you will regenerate the brutal spine damage stat that never regenerated before when you see the healing status indicator. So in conclusion, most gunfight deaths in DayZ are caused by the spinal damage stat reaching 0, with spinal damage only being considered when hitting a player in what's considered the pelvis or chest. My advice from these results is go for headshots with the weaker ammo types if you can, and go for chest, back or pelvis shots when you have the stronger ammo types in game, because headshots are overkill with how much spinal damage the stronger ammo types in game do to these body parts. Thank you for watching. Spinal damage looks to be the main cause of death in DayZ, and I will see you in the next video.